You guys asked for it, here it is. It's at least a couple of times a week that I get a comment asking for a sourdough video, and I am bringing that to you today. This right here is my little sourdough starter. We keep this fed and ready to go pretty much all the time because I make things so often out of sourdough. Also, this video is sponsored by Byrds, and they sent me this gorgeous Dutch oven. Let's go ahead and feed this starter because it has to sit for about 3 to 4 hours depending on the climate and the temperature that you're in so that it can start to bubble up. This is basically just means you need to add flour and water to it. So we're gonna add 100 grams of flour and 100 grams of water. And then we want to set this in a nice warm place. It's gonna take about 4 hours or so, and it's gonna double in size. The first recipe that we are going to make today is just a traditional no-knead sourdough loaf. Look how beautiful this loaf is. There is something about homemade sourdough bread that is just absolutely delicious. All right, so here's my starter. Remember, it was about here when we mixed it, and now you can see it's come about double in size. It should be nice and bubbly. Oh yeah, that's exactly what we wanna see. So I'm gonna start with 250 grams of flour. I use the King Arthur organic all-purpose unbleached flour. That's just my preference. And we're gonna get to 250 grams, 259. It's totally fine to do it that way though. Having a kitchen scale can make all the difference when making sourdough stuff. It just I don't even have to get out my measuring cups because I just measure by grams. Now I'm gonna add some whole wheat flour. Same thing, I use the King Arthur brand. I like that brand, I think it's good. Zero out my scale. And we are going to add 100 grams of the wheat flour. And now we're gonna add in some bread flour. If you don't have bread flour, that's totally fine. Just add more of your regular unbleached flour. And we are gonna add 125 grams of this. We need 325 grams of water. Now I'm gonna just mix this up a little bit with my bread hook in my KitchenAid mixer. If you do not have a KitchenAid mixer, that is completely okay. You just need a spoon or something that you can mix this with. Now we haven't added in the starter, which you can see, this is just the water and the flour, but it actually takes a little bit for the flour to absorb the water. So we add these together first, mix them up, and then in about 30 minutes, we'll add in the starter and the salt. All right, so this has been sitting here for about 30 minutes or so, and the flour has absorbed all of that water. Now we've got our starter, and I'm gonna pour 100 grams of the starter into this bowl. I've zeroed out my scale, and I am actually going to immediately refeed my starter because we will need it for dinner tonight. Okay, we also need to add 10 grams of salt. Add slowly, can't really remove it after you put it in there. So there we go, 10 grams. And I'm gonna put this back into my mixer and combine all of this together. Now, I wanna point out that sometimes this does happen. I stand over here and watch it, and it's really not combining that well. So sometimes you do kind of have to get it started. Now, I'm a little bit of a cheater when it comes to this. So I just take the dough hook off and get it started by just kind of mixing it with the dough hook. It's just getting that sticky dough to combine with the starter. Sometimes it's a problem and sometimes it's not. Also keep in mind, if you're using your hands to combine this, you're not gonna run into that problem. Now you're gonna see, you don't have to overmix this. This is a no-knead recipe. So at this point, we just put a towel over it again and just leave it there. And for about 15 minutes, then we'll come back and do what's called stretch and fold. Now there are a couple of ways you can go about this next process. Sometimes I do stretch and fold just right here in my KitchenAid mixer where I just turn this on and I let it all mix together. You'll see it kind of form a ball and it's just really strengthening that gluten. You can also do it this way where you are just literally stretching the dough and folding it and repeating that a couple of times. You're gonna do this a total of about 6 to 8 times over the course of several hours. So every 15 minutes, 30 minutes, just come and go and do a series of stretch and folds before you do anything else. All right, it's been about 15 minutes again, so you'll see that it's a lot more pliable with the first couple pulls, and then it will start to come together and really strengthen up each time. I believe this is the 3rd stretch and fold that I've done. And so now this has been every 15 minutes. I'm going to, again, cover this, and I'm probably only gonna stretch and fold 3 more times, and I'm probably gonna wait more like 30 minutes in between now. All right, so I'm gonna do one last stretch and fold, and then we're gonna put a plastic wrap. I use these hair nets, actually, plastic hair nets. We're gonna put that over it and let it bulk rise for about 4 hours. What you're looking for here is the window pane test. See how you can stretch it, and it's almost a little bit see-through. So this is perfect, so let's do our stretch and fold. And remember, it will start to come together again. Now I'm gonna take that hairnet, put it over the top, and we're just gonna set this to the side to bulk rise. It's kind of hard to see with the plastic on, but we are looking for this to double in size over the next several hours. It all depends on like the temperature of your home, how active your starter was. There's so many different factors. We're just gonna let it sit here until it's doubled. It's been here about 4 hours. We've just about doubled in size. I have 2 of these shakers. One has powdered sugar and one has flour. I got them on Amazon. I'll have them linked in my description box. So we are going to take this out of the bowl. I wanna try not to pop all of the bubbles that have formed. And I'm gonna lightly dust this with flour. And at this point, we're just kind of turning it about itself, folding it a little bit here and there, and just kind of pulling it toward us to create a ball shape. So we're kind of just rounding it out on the counter. I've got a good round shape here. I'm going to take out a Banneton basket. I have 2 of these. Again, I ordered these on Amazon. I will have them linked in my description box. What I typically do is turn it upside down, give it a couple of folds almost like in and of itself. So I'm gonna put it in the Banneton basket, seam side up, go in the Banneton basket. Now, if you made a full recipe, you would have enough to make 2 of these, so you would split your dough in half. Now I'm just gonna close up the seams. This is gonna sit out on the counter for about 15 to 20 minutes. Then I'm gonna put my hairnet over it, and it's gonna go in the refrigerator overnight, and we're gonna bake this in the morning. I wanted to mention you can do this without having a Banneton basket. I used to take a glass bowl just like this right here and lay in a cloth, put the bread in the cloth, fold over the cloth over the bread, and then wrap it with that plastic wrap and put it in the fridge. I love a Dutch oven for making sourdough bread. Obviously, you can use a Dutch oven for so many different things. This color is stunning, by the way, absolutely stunning. It's the perfect size to make a loaf too. It's not too big, it's not too small. I love having this available. This Dutch oven is enamel coated, and it comes with a recipe book as well. And it also comes with these little pot holders that you can use to take it in and out of the oven. This is a 3-quart cast iron enamel coated Dutch oven. It's perfect for things like stewing and braising and things that you're gonna cook on the stove and move to the oven because it's also oven safe. But you guys know we love this for sourdough. I love using my Dutch oven for sourdough. We will definitely use it for other things, but this is my favorite way to use it. Since it's enamel coated, it's really good for making sure that it's a good non-stick surface. And it's perfectly safe and good for any type of stovetop. It can be used on induction, it can be used on gas, and it can be used on electric. And if you're not familiar with cast iron, which is what this is, it's just enamel coated, cast iron is really good for making sure that heat spreads evenly. So that's why we love a good Dutch oven. They also sent me this gorgeous toaster, same color, it matches. I love that. This toaster is one of Byrds' best-selling products. It is a 4-slice toaster. There are 10 different settings on this, so you can use it for bread, you can use it for bagels, you can use it for your kids' waffles in the morning, so many different settings. I actually learned the bagel setting only toasts the one side of the bagel. We love bagels in our house. That's another thing actually that you can make with sourdough. The slots on the toaster are extra wide slots so that if you have a really thick piece of bread or something like that, they're gonna fit perfectly in there. Head to my description box and you can get the link to both of these products. I am loving them, plus they look so beautiful. You can't pass up a good kitchen appliance or tool that is also beautiful to cook in. We are going to preheat our oven to 500 degrees and let the Dutch oven just sit in the oven. I usually like to let it sit in there for at least 30 minutes, but the longer the better. So if you can let it sit in there for an hour, I know that's really high heat to have your kitchen warmed up. If you can let it sit in there for an hour, that's even better. I've got some parchment paper right here. I've got my loaf that I pulled out of the refrigerator. You can see here. And I'm just going to lightly dust the parchment paper with some flour. You can also use cornmeal. Turn this out onto the parchment paper. I have this scoring tool here. It looks like this. It's basically a razor blade, and I use this to score my bread. You can do this all different ways. You can make it really pretty if you want to. It's totally up to you how you do it. All right, this is gonna go in, and we are going to cook it for 20 minutes on 500 degrees with the lid on. All right, friends, moment of truth. Let's take this out of the oven and see what it looks like. It will go back in just a minute, but we're gonna take the lid off now. Okay, here we go. Oh my goodness, y'all, this is exactly what you want. I'm so excited. So look how pretty this is. I'm so excited. Okay, we're gonna turn the oven down to 450 and it's gonna go back in for about 20 minutes. Look how pretty. Oh my goodness. So we have to let this cool for, I don't know, probably 30 minutes to an hour. I'm gonna leave it right here on the stove top for about 10 minutes. Then I will pull it off and put it onto a cooling rack. And then we're gonna slice into this because we're gonna use the toaster and make some toast and try this bread out. All right, you guys, honestly, this would probably cool for about another 20 minutes or so, but my kids are chomping at the bit to get into this. So we're gonna go ahead and slice it up. Bread, oh my goodness, it's steaming still. It looks so delicious. I cannot wait to eat this. One lunch, and I haven't even made mine yet, will get us down to a half loaf. That's how much we love this. So my daughter made herself a turkey sandwich, which is almost gone by now. My son just made himself well, it's the start of a grilled cheese. So these are gonna go in the air fryer or toaster oven.
I'm gonna grill it.
You're gonna grill it, okay. My husband is over here starting a turkey sandwich. Is that hummus? There's hummus and balsamic, and then he's gonna add some turkey and some cheese. I am just putting some butter on this, and we're gonna use this cinnamon sugar. I'm telling you guys, sourdough bread is where it's at.
Can I have a bite?
So if you're not familiar with sourdough or you're new to sourdough, it just has this really great crust on the outside, and it's nice and really like squishy and soft on the inside. That's the best way that I can explain it. It's just so good. It changes bread. It just changes bread. It is just not your typical bread. Our sandwich bread that we make now is a honey wheat loaf, and I'll have the recipe also linked below. I'll make that in a different video, but I'm telling you, it just changes the way that you feel about bread. My husband is nodding because we love bread so in just like such a different way now. One of our favorite things that we can make with our sourdough, either with a fed and active starter or even with the discard. If you're not familiar with what a discard is, it basically just means your starter's been sitting for a little bit and you need to pour off some of it and just kind of like restart it. You can use that. You don't have to throw away the discard. So we are going to make sourdough pancakes. You guys, we love pancakes for breakfast, but we also really love pancakes for dinner. I'm not sure if you're doing this and you're eating pancakes and bacon or pancakes and sausage for dinner, but you're missing out if you're not. My husband is the one that usually ends up making the pancakes. It's just something that he really enjoys, and he likes making them out of this Pyrex measuring dish. So that is what we are gonna put all the ingredients into. You can start with a sourdough starter that's been fed like I'm doing, so it's nice and bubbly, or you can use your discard. We're gonna add 200 grams of sourdough starter. And if you do not have a scale, you can actually make this one without a scale. You're gonna need about 3/4 of a cup. Now here you can use buttermilk or regular milk. We are just using our regular milk, and we're adding 1 cup or 240 grams. We are gonna add 2 eggs here, and then I'm gonna just lightly beat them with the other ingredients. You can beat them before putting them into the ingredients. That's completely fine. We need 3 tablespoons or 50 grams of white sugar. You could use honey, you could use maple syrup. We're gonna go with sugar for this. If you've been here for a while, you guys know that we use almond extract instead of vanilla extract, so we're gonna add about 5 grams or 1 teaspoon of that almond extract. We've got about 4 tablespoons of melted butter. I'm gonna go ahead and add that in. We are also gonna add in 2 cups of all-purpose flour. It's about 240 grams if you're using a scale. And now we're just gonna mix this up, combine it, and just let it sit until we are ready to make the pancakes. Right before we start to make these, I've got a couple more ingredients that we'll add in. All right, so this has been just sitting for about an hour and a half or so. We're gonna add a teaspoon of baking soda, and I always sift our baking soda to make sure we don't get any clumps. We're also gonna add a teaspoon of baking powder. Again, sift that. If you've ever bitten into a bite of baking soda, it's disgusting. We're gonna add a teaspoon of salt. And now we can mix all of that together. Over here, we've got our indoor grill heating up, and we are about ready to start cooking. All right, so we're using the 1/4 cup measurer for these just to get the size, and just putting them on this little griddle and cooking them up. You can also do waffles with these too, if that's what you prefer. So another thing that we do is keep a pan in the oven, and as the pancakes finish, he puts them over on that pan and it keeps them nice and warm. The oven is on 225 degrees. If you want sourdough recipes, you have to go follow Lisa from Farmhouse on Boone. She's gonna show you exactly how to make your sourdough starter, how to feed it, and she's got tons of recipes on her channel and on her blog available to get you started. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video and you got some sourdough inspiration. The things that you can make with sourdough are crazy endless. I'm telling you, you've got to check it out. Go on to Farmhouse on Boone, go to, I think it's Little Spoon Farm. I'll have both of their accounts tagged in the description box. They have so many recipes that you can use. I hope that you're inspired and encouraged. Don't forget to check out the links in my description box for the 2 products that were mentioned here today, the 4-slice toaster and the Dutch oven, because they are stunning. You're gonna love these. Hope you're having a great week. Bye. Our verse this week comes from James 3:13. Who is wise and understanding among you? By his good conduct, let him show his works in the meekness of wisdom.